I was waiting for this interview. I'm giving you Chris Williams from HashiCorp, the one and only Chris. Hello everyone again. Finally, I met Chris in person.
Hello!
It's hard to miss you. Anyway, here we are in the HashiCorp booth and we will talk about Terraform, maybe?
We can talk about Terraform, we can talk about KubeCon, we can talk about anything you guys want to talk about. Absolutely.
Yeah, and AI. This is AI, everywhere AI, right?
Everybody's talking about AI nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But we were the first.
Did we? All right, yes. Awesome.
We were
Cool.
the first with the podcast where we had AI as a guest. That was crazy. Anyway, how is KubeCon so far for you?
So this is actually my first KubeCon. I've never done it before. I'm here in a very new capacity for myself. I don't often do booth duty, so
Okay.
I'm usually on the floor. I'm usually the person interviewing, not being the interviewer. So there's a lot of new things. KubeCon itself, absolutely fascinating. The number of solutions to problems that I didn't even realize were out there in the ecosystem is fascinating. So it's giving me a lot of ideas for new content and for new projects to do, and so much to learn. There's so much to learn here. We were just at the certification booth, and I was looking at all of the different things. So like, how do I get my feet wet with this entirely new environment?
Oh yes, it's changing so fast, and this cognitive load we have on our heads. It's amazing. But
Very much so.
Yeah, so yes, it's overwhelming how many different technologies and approaches you can see here, right? And you immediately want to implement them somehow. So what is not really possible, I think, but it's kind of interesting that this first KubeCon for you, because you are a lot on AWS conferences, right? AWS hero, so you have to be.
It's really funny because I told everybody that this is my first KubeCon, and everybody's like, no, it is impossible that this is your first KubeCon, because I stand at the booth and like every 5 minutes somebody comes by and like, hey Chris, how you doing? So there is a lot of overlap with the AWS and people, the HashiConf people from Boston. A lot of them are here as well. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create applications, connect them to each other, regardless of what kind of background or infrastructure is available to us, in a resilient way.
Yes.
Something that can self-heal, something that can... So within those parameters, that's the overlap is going to be huge, because we're all basically trying to get to the same end goal.
Yes, and we are one big community, really, right? And
yes.
All those technologies are intersecting somehow.
See, exactly.
Exactly. This is the proof for Chris' point. Right. So, how Hashi is doing during the conference?
Oh, everything's been going fantastic. We've been getting a lot of like really good questions from folks. We love people coming up with technical questions. Like this is the problem that we are running into. How can you help me? Everything from like really complex solutioning all the way down to what is Terraform? How does Terraform help me solve things?
Yes.
So me being in the education space and the certification space, I love those questions because I get to point them to our certification tracks, the articles that I've written on how to do your baby step, dip your toes into Terraform at a very early stage in your career. So it's super fun here.
All right, that sounds good. And crazy question, but we already said that AI is everywhere. So where is AI in Terraform?
So that's a great question. We're leveraging it on multiple fronts. If you are using VS Code, like everybody is, and you have GitHub Copilot, we're leveraging it from the perspective of helping you create those Terraform configurations, to helping you refactor your configurations, to giving you advice. So one of the talks that I'm giving at reInvent this year is how to use generative AI to improve your DevOps pipeline. So what I'm going to be talking about is the door metrics. I'm blanking now. The 4 DORA metrics of availability, reliability, throughput, lead time, deployment time,
deployment frequency,
and mean time to recovery. Got it.
Yes.
Hi, Nathan. No. and so through that lens, AI is useful in a number of fashions. From helping you write your unit testing for your Terraform code, helping to create lines of code for monitoring and logging. Say, hey, I want to monitor and log this, and my uptime requirement is 99.99%. And then AI is helping to modify our TF files. So that's how I'm using it. We've also got some stuff under the covers that we're going to be talking about on how it's going to be starting to get baked in, of course. But that's something for the future. Wink.
Yeah. So let's see what will happen. Like recent changes for Terraform, the biggest I think was this Terraform test, right? And at least
test and stacks too.
And stacks, yes. That's something what is also big. So do you see a lot of users already start to use them? And do you have like I suppose positive feedbacks?
So we do have positive feedback on it. It's something that's been a long time coming. It's been a very much asked for feature that's been coming. I mean, if you got dev, UAT, prod, and every other flavor of environment, you want to have an easy button to update all of the things with the parameters around each one of those environments. So that's something that is like, well, of course that's a problem. Why would we not do that? So that's very much asked for. Testing is obviously another thing that's kind of like, as a language evolves, you see the same motions across languages. Like a language gets developed, and then now how do we confirm that the language is doing the thing that we want it to do? So those are two long sought after, much needed improvements, and we've got a whole bunch more coming down the pipe too. So we're getting, to answer your question, yes, we are getting positive response to it.
Yeah, that's great, because as you said, this is something what we expected to have, right? And another aspect which is more and more popular, I think, with infrastructure as code in general, not only Terraform, but in general. Terraform is the most popular tool, right? It's dominating the market. Let's be honest here. But it doesn't matter what approach you select, you hit in some point the problem of scale, problem of modularity, and so on and so on.
Yes.
Do you have questions about this as well? Is this something what you can see in like recent months, years, is growing ideas in heads of people that, hey, we need to scale?
One of the things that HashiCorp has not been good at in the past has been coming up with recommendations and you should, if you're doing it this way, you should be thinking about breaking it up in this structure. Historically, we've been like, okay, this is a tool, you can do what you want, have fun. But now that it's getting more mature, we are starting to have what are called HashiCorp validated designs. So if you Google HashiCorp validated designs, you'll start seeing modules that are HVD certified, and those are the ways that people that are thinking about scaling out should be building their environments.
That's cool. Because previously the community did that, right? So, for example, Anton Babenko, which we prepared a lot of the best ways of doing things, modules, and so on and so on.
And a lot of his modules are HVD. They're validated designs now. So we're starting to become more less agnostic and more opinionated about how design should be done.
And I think it's time for it, really, because
it's long overdue.
Yes,
if we're being honest.
Now, the tricky one, because Terraform is mature enough, right? We know already on this conference that Kubernetes is also kind of mature. It is mature already, right?
Yep. 10 years old. This conference. 10 years old,
yes.
Happy birthday.
And there is a saying that every 10 years something like spectacular, like changing, is happening in the IT world.
Yes.
So
if not sooner.
Yes. So how do you see this for the infrastructure as code perspective? What can come next in our world?
So I mean, we've got layers upon layers of abstractions. We've got the bare metal from 20 years ago, and now we've got, then we had virtualization, and then we had cloudification, and then we had containerization, and I know that containers came a long time before, but hadn't been well implemented until recently, and now we're at serverless, which is also kind of a funny name because there's a server behind it.
Some server.
So, what is the next iteration going to be? It's going to be another type of abstraction. My hope is that at some point we will have a cloud agnostic, on-prem agnostic serverless option, so that you could take an AWS Lambda and run it over in Azure, or something like that. And I'm sure that some third parties are already thinking about that and trying to figure out how to make the widgets translate and stuff like that. So it's the end goal is to lubricate and file away the rough edges for the developer to get features out faster. And the less you have to think about the back end and whether or not I'm overloading it or how many CPUs I need or is my pipe big enough to get from point A to point B, the less I need to think about that and the more that automates, the faster they can do the thing that's going to make the company money.
Yes.
And that's what they want to do.
Yes. And you mentioned a couple of technologies which appeared in the years before. An interesting observation from my side. When we started with Docker and containers, we had like a big boom for it. Then we just stepped back.
There was a pause.
Yes, and then we came back to the containerization.
Yes.
The same for serverless, really. The same for clouds, really.
Yep.
But not for infrastructure as code. I didn't saw that kind of like, wait, stop, let's come back. Right?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great observation. One that I had not made. So
you can use it.
Thank you. I will. Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure is the infrastructure, as we discussed. So the concept of using code to make the infrastructure deploy better is a no-brainer. It's like now you're like, well, of course. Why would we not do it this way?
Yeah.
So to artificially pump the brakes on, I mean, you wouldn't want to pump the brakes on that because it's something that is like much needed. And yes, you are building a faster way to get yourself into trouble. If you don't have testing in place, so put testing in place.
Yeah. Exactly.
Don't deploy that $1,000 a second EC2 instance.
Well, it happens.
Expo hall floor, yay! So that was. I don't know where I was going with that now.
Well, yeah, I lost. Anyway, we didn't touch a lot of other tools which HashiCorp offers because still, what Hashi did in the years was very important from the DevOps perspective, right? Starting, for example, with Vagrant, right? This, like having codified virtual machines was something what allows people to really speed up with things. Right now, probably no one remembers what Vagrant is, but still, I still remember.
Okay, good. All right.
And I'm using this from time to time.
Nice.
Yes,
Very cool.
I'm old enough, yeah?
Yeah.
And there are many other tools which Hashi is providing, yes, Expo4. And do you see the same interest for infrastructure as code, or infrastructure as code tooling like Terraform is like the most, like a working horse for Hashi?
Yes, Terraform is the biggest workhorse in terms of adoption, in terms of utilization, because that's the biggest need. as we get into more of the maturity level of understanding why secrets rotation is important and the dynamic secrets, the maturity we have a very well-defined maturity cycle of everybody gets their feet wet with Terraform. That's like the first stop, and then they start thinking about, okay, how do I protect everything? Then they bring Vault in. Then they're like, okay, well then how do I start expanding that out? And so then they start looking at all of the other tools and everything. So the answer to your question is yes. Once they've matured and start thinking about security and network optimization and containerization, that's when the rest of the tools come into play.
Yeah. So however it sounds crazy, maybe a little bit, infrastructure as code is a good entry point to the cloud native tooling, really.
Yeah, it really is, and it's funny because it's a very different learning path for an operations person that is learning Terraform than it is for a developer that is learning Terraform, because the developer already understands CI/CD pipelines. They already have all of that baked in. The operations person, they understand networking and systems and speeds and feeds, not so much how. Some of them don't even have a GitHub repo.
Yeah.
So the learning curve is steeper, but they understand how the infrastructure should work better than the developer. So it's a very interesting paradigm. Both worldviews are necessary, and it's hard to find any one person that has all of it all in one package.
Yes, and this is a good ending for this, I think, because I took a lot of your time, and you are busy man, well-known man. Right? So there is a lot of people who should wave to you still, right? So thank you very much, Chris, and it was really a pleasure to talk with you. Finally meet in face-to-face.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been chatting. It's one of those things where because of the pandemic, everybody interfaces and talks and everything. Yeah. But then actually seeing them live for the first time, like, you don't look anything like your profile because you had your hair back, and I was like, oh, it's Pavel. Oh, perfect.
Yes. Yes. Well. Awesome. Right. So thank you very much again, and enjoy the rest of the KubeCon, first KubeCon of your. I will. And we'll see together on reInvent.
And we will be at reInvent together.
Yes.
All right.
So
bye, everybody.
As you saw, there is no one like Chris. Let's see what happened in next interviews.